I had this black thing on my nose.
That was a prostitute?
Speaking of boners.
I would expect that from you, not him.
Our TVs don't have cracks in them.
But our roommates do.
Now they are the halfway house Hunks. Yeah. Adam would buy your pills from you, while Leroy ran from the boys in blue. Ed was the captain around New York City. They all claim they never partied with P Diddy. Public intoxication and drug possession. The lots went down the same progression. Drinking with them would have been a blast, but now all those days are in the past. They are the halfway house Hunks. They used to be a group of drunks. They were prey to depression from a mental obsession, but God removed the junk that was in their trunks. Now they are the halfway house Hunks.
Thank you for joining us on The Recovery Idiot. Thank you for watching my first threesome. Please like and subscribe and go to therecoveryidiot.com for links to all the videos and songs and contact information to exchange nude photos. Today I'm joined by two outstanding members of the AA community and both handsome fellows.
When they showing up. Hi, Ed. Hi, Ed. Hi, I'm Ed. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date is May 28, 2019. I have a sponsor who has a sponsor, and I sponsor other men.
And I'm Adam. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is October 14th, 2021. I have a sponsor that has a sponsor, and I sponsor other men also.
My name is Leroy. I'm a recovered alcoholic addict. My sobriety date is April 7th, 2020. I have a sponsor who's a juggalo, but he knows he's my sponsor. I have sponsored several men in this program. And I recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body by working the 12 steps that are found in this book. One of the great things about this program is meeting people from all walks of life. You meet people from different states, different careers, but we all have one thing in common. Our alcoholism and addiction has usually taken us to the gutter. Our book talks about chasing the obsession of being a successful alcohol or drug user to the gates of insanity. And it mentions that jails, institutions, and death are usually the bad places you'll end up. But there's another bad place you can end up, and it's called the halfway house. And that's where I met these handsome gentlemen at. We are from the Bermuda Triangle of halfway houses in Stuart, Florida. It's a bizarre little place where, for some reason, there is about a dozen sober living facilities, houses, whatever you want to call it, and it surrounds this place called Fellowship, where they have meetings pretty much all day long. One of these guys lived in the same halfway house as me at a different time, but this guy came from the rival halfway house, a couple steps classier than mine. And we kind of looked at people from that house as, assholes. They were entitled, and they had a better place to live. And there was always like a little high school feud between my halfway house and theirs. But I remember seeing this guy coming in when I was brand new, and I couldn't stand him because of his attitude. He was always happy and knowledgeable, and he would talk in meetings about working this program, and I would just think, like, shut up, nobody cares. I really could not stand when I heard him speak, and I ended up bumping into him at work one day, and we started talking about a mutual friend whose name is Clark, and he's a completely fake alcoholic. I mean, he's probably an alcoholic, just doesn't work a program. And the things he was saying started to make sense. And over time, I realized he's one of the smartest people I know in this program. How did we end up meeting at the Bermuda Triangle of halfway houses?
I actually was born in New York when I was about 6 years old.
What year did you leave New York?
1971.
So you cannot prove that you did not party with Puff Daddy?
There is rumors, innuendos, but no photographic evidence. So nothing on video. My family came here. I was raised in this area. Worked construction. My dad was a contractor. Left high school in 11th grade. Took my GED. Got out because I was already doing carpentry and making outstanding money. I think I was making $7.50 an hour at that time. It was like, that was crazy money. Nothing was more important than just having a good time. And at that time, the area was small. I got pulled over many times and had the police follow me home. They would let me drive my vehicle home. There are dead mailboxes all over roads because, I mean, hundreds of mailboxes have died because I had the keys in the ignition of a vehicle. Got here to the rooms. I had to lose everything. So what happened is I got tired of construction, took a course in the marine industry to become boat captain, then went to New York. My family had ties in the Statue of Liberty ferries and Ellis Island ferries. Went up there and did my sea time. I needed time on bigger boats to get my captain's license that I needed.
Were you captain of the Circle Line?
Yeah, Statue of Liberty ferries, the Circle Line boats, 799 passenger vessels that left Battery Park and went to the statue in Ellis Island and back.
Do you remember the Circle Line commercial?
Which one?
I was like circling on the Circle Line.
That's the Circle Line that goes around the city. That's the other half of the company, yeah.
Circling on the Circle Line. Toot, toot. Circling on the Circle Line.
My grandfather and 5 other gentlemen actually owned that company. They started way back. There was some shady shit in my past from that.
Anything that originates in the tri-state area has some shady shit tied to it.
So anyway, yeah, I did that gig. I was married right before I went up there, dragged my wife that I met here, bought a boat in Fort Lauderdale, refurbished it in a year, like stripped it down to nothing, rebuilt it, spent every penny I can, almost went broke in 2 years, and then took that boat up to New York because I knew people in New York, and we operated as a 400-passenger booze cruise boat up the Paddle Wheel Queen up in New York City, and we were successful for quite a while through 9/11 and everything, and we did very well up until the crash, 2007, then 2008, and it all rocketed down, and my world crumbled around me. I had alcoholic tendencies, and I was an alcoholic before that. I could drink constantly. I owned a bar cruise, booze cruise. What perfect cover. I would never be drunk steering the boat. Might be hungover, which is technically still under the influence of alcohol, to tell you the truth. But usually not. But as soon as that boat tied up at night, I would do shots of Johnny Walker Black and drink Coronas while I'm filling out my logbooks at the end of the day. I would leave there, and we docked at East 23rd Street, and I would go down in the East Village and just haunt the place. Go through and just get in fights. I was already in my 40s, and I was picking fights with 20-year-olds because I was so angry. I was living in alcoholism. I knew two feelings, fear and anger. And I did not know that that's what was taking place. Restless, irritable, and discontent, that's bullshit. It's a lot worse than that. I was genuinely unable to find joy in a life that I should have been joyful in. I had everything going for me. And shit was handed to me on a silver platter. It just kept working out. Back to Florida when it all crashed and licking my wounds. And that's when my real full alcoholism. Now, I lost my business because I had alcoholic tendencies, because I was not preparing for the future. I didn't do the due diligence. I have a lazy streak that's inside me. I want things the easiest, softest way possible. And my business went under probably partly because of that. When I left, I was one of the few guys that got my boat bought, and my company bought for me for pennies on a dollar from what I got offered 2 years or a year and a half before. Came back here beaten. That was my identity. The only thing propping me up from drinking the way I wanted to drink was the job, and not the job itself. It was all the eyes looking at me. That was my barrier that kept me from drinking the way I wanted to drink all the time. Because I went out in the East Village, man, and there were a couple other guys that I hung out with who aren't alcoholic. They weren't alcoholic, but they drank like I drank when I drank. And we would go get mixed up in stupid shit. Talk more than once to the police. But always scathed, always not scathed, but skated. Got by. Came here at that point in time, just couldn't get my shit back together. My house went into slow motion foreclosure, and I was in morbid morass and self-pity. Instead of looking at what I had and grabbing my fucking ass and picking it up and moving forward, I was stuck in the past. Woe was me, look what happened to me. Came to the point where I had a wife of 20-something years at the time, one child still living in the house. She had moved to the other side of the house. I was so drinking so much, so obnoxious, getting up in the middle of the night and punching the walls sometimes, just pure anger and rage all the time. So this is the rationalizations that take place in my alcoholic head. I never laid hands on my ex. Never, not once. My kids, didn't beat them. We practiced conscious discipline. We were good parents. And so I had all these rationalizations that I was decent. What I did is psychologically destroyed her life. I kicked her ass out in the street. I tried to rationalize that she left me, and that was the lie that I told myself. Also in parenting, yeah, I didn't hit my kids, but I wasn't there. If there was a cup I could take to an event, that cup had Captain Morgan in it and a splash of something dark. I didn't give a shit what it was, but something so it didn't look like Captain Morgan. And I was constantly anesthetized, constantly not really truly present. So fast forward, slow motion foreclosure. My ex is working in child daycare just so we can have food on the table and keep the lights on. I spent 2 days saying the most horrific, horrible shit you could possibly imagine to her in front of my child until the point was that she had to leave. She had to leave for her own safety, internal, mental safety. She left with my kid, and for the next 8 months, I got to drink the way I wanted to. I was in and out of New Horizons 7 times in 1 year, right? That's under 60 days, right? I can't even do the math. It's 50. Every 50 days, I was checking myself back in and give my 5 to 10 day, recovery time and detox. And then I was back, and not once did the police bring me. I thought alcohol was the problem, and if I could just stop drinking, because I couldn't stop drinking, physically couldn't stop drinking, I would tell myself I had to stop, I need to stop. And the doctor's opinion talks about the obsession and the craving phase of my alcoholism. For me, I lived in this obsession. I knew everything was going wrong. I was selling the belongings in the house. I couldn't work, couldn't get a job. What was it? I was prey to misery. Come on, tell me my favorite line. Do it with the book in your hand. This is one of my favorite things Adam does. He does this at we speak at Coastal. You do. You
Not
have
for the
to.
bitter
You have to for the Coastal.
I was having trouble with personal relationships. I couldn't control my emotional natures. I was prey to misery and depression. I couldn't make a living. I had feelings of uselessness. I was full of fear. I was unhappy, and I seemed to be no real help to any other person. And it's actually use to other person, but I always say help. But it's story time for you, dude.
Yeah,
you're a seaman. You're in the Navy.
You're a seaman. You're full of seaman. The reason why I had Adam say this, so I heard this for years. These remind me of the things that the book tells me I need to stay in recovery so that I don't have to enter the obsession and the craving phase of drinking. Now, I had Adam say that whole thing because for years, I've been in the rooms for 10 years now. I got sent by the courts when I was young a couple of times, a couple of DUIs. Never heard a damn thing. Don't even barely remember. Just know that I had to go. And one night after years of hearing that saying in a room, reading it with other guys, there was just this wash over me of that is exactly what it meant for me to be an alcoholic. Couldn't be of any real help to anyone, right? I was prey to misery and depression. I was having problems with my personal relationships. I took this girl that grew up in this area, we got married, and this person that didn't deserve it ended up with an alcoholic as a husband now. I was a party animal growing up, doing stupid shit, jumping off bridges, fast-moving, vehicles, crashing cars, and that seemed like fun in your early 20s. That's fun. That's funny. That's, ooh, look at the rebel. But when I'm hip, slick, and cool at 40, that doesn't work. It doesn't work in the real world. So the fact of the matter was I had to lose everything worthwhile to end up in the rooms and hear the things I needed to hear to find a design for living that would put me in a position where I'm in a position of neutrality toward alcohol. I'm around it a lot. I have friends in the area that grew up here. I go out to class reunions. I go out to bars with them, for a purpose, to be there for friendship, to engage with them, have a good time. And never once, it's the strangest thing, I can't describe it. My sponsees, early newcomers, can't relate to it. They're like, how do you not think about it? You're not thinking about it at all? You're not thinking about you can't have it, or you're not thinking about that's evil and they're drinking? Or I'm like, no, I'm a position of neutrality. They could be drinking water, or they could be drinking straight up freaking whiskey. It would make no difference because that's not why I'm there. I stay with them and hang out with them, and we have a great time, invest in the community and the people, even outside of AA, that love me and I love them, right? When I'm done there, when they get too drunk, I've made arrangements beforehand. I have a way to leave there, and then I go home. Make sure I offer, if they're very intoxicated, to get them home, and if they say no, then that's none of my fucking business because I'm not God and I can't wrestle people to the ground. I have this beautiful life of helping other men find a program and a design for living that makes them really, truly become better people. That's the strangest thing about this disease. It's the only disease. Adam said, this is another line I'm stealing. Adam loves to say this. We do. This is how Adam and I met. Sean is his sponsor, and Sean pawned him off on me, and he's become one of my best comrades in recovery. And we hang out and do coastal a lot. We have a similar take on the program also. But you have that take too.
Well, that was the thing I was starting to say. You're from New York. I'm from New Jersey. Naturally, we're born enemies. Mm-hmm. You're a little older than I am, which isn't much because I'm very old too. We had different careers, different lifestyles, but that same exact misery, that same obsession, the same same way I treated my wife towards the end, the same way that I wasn't a bad stepdad, but I could have been non-existent because I did nothing. I had a life handed to me on a silver platter, a life beyond my wildest dreams, a 1 in a billion chance. And I said, no, I'm going to follow this thing that makes me feel good because I can't yet understand that I'm full of fear and anger. And back then, I didn't know what any of those feelings were. I just had to make amends to somebody, and she was a big part of my life. We got in a lot of trouble together. I got her first arrest. Can't pass a background check because of me now. We both did time in the same place. I had to explain to her, I didn't know I was depressed. I just didn't know what that felt. I didn't know how to describe the way I felt. So rather than try to explain it, I just isolated because I felt shame and fear because I don't know why I feel the way I am, but it's horrible. And it's only because of this program that I can now look back at my life and say, oh, that's what the problem was, you idiot. You're getting in all those fights because you're actually afraid.
Yeah.
You're actually isolating because you're afraid of what people will think of you. I don't like these people. I judge them all. They're horrible. No, it's because I'm afraid they're going to judge me. Everything I did in my life was pretty much backward. And then when I found a substance to put in me, I was able to not worry about those feelings. So he's from the fancy pantsy halfway house.
Our TVs don't have cracks in them.
But our roommates do. Came back to my halfway house after I moved out, and I heard this guy speaking at a meeting, and just some people are so full of shit, but they can talk the talk so good. And I remember my friend James was like, that guy either really knows what he's talking about, or he's just so full of shit. But it was an amazing, articulate, intelligent way, if you were just full of shit. But it turned out you weren't. And
I don't even know myself if
I
I'm
had
full of
seen
shit.
you several times after. We came up through the Blake Beach Department of Corrections. You're actually there twice. But how did your life go from Virginia to Stuart?
My weed bone is connected to my alcohol bone. My alcohol bone's connected to my cocaine bone. My cocaine bone's connected to my Xanax bone. And then I'm shooting up heroin and fentanyl again. And that's how it ends up every time. If it's a week, a month, 6 months, a year, it always goes back to the same circle, the same routine. But I'm from a little Bulgarian village called Lickens a Dickens. Care to visit? From Alexandria, Virginia. My sobriety date is October 14th, 2021. So in 2.5 weeks, I'll have 3 years of sobriety, man. When I couldn't get 3 days, 3 hours, 3 minutes. It's crazy to look back on it now. And if you'd said 3 years ago that I'd be speaking in front of groups of people, hanging out on a couch with a couple of bros, talking about recovery and touching each other, all the above, man, where babies come from, I would have thought you were crazy, man. It's insane. It defies logic that sitting between you two folks, you handsome gentlemen right now, in the life and the world that I'm in today, it's crazy to look back on it. Born and raised in Alexandria, Virginia. My parents were the best parents that you could ask for, man. There was no abuse, mental, physical, whatever going on. If anything, I would say that I had it too easy with no discipline at all. But in the end, it's I drank and used because I essentially liked the effects. Grew up, it was whatever. My dad and my mom and dad would say, as long as you're going to school, getting good grades, you should be able to do whatever you want. And then I'd get a public intoxication charge, and my dad would say, you learned your lesson. You're not going to do that again, right? Well, I got 3 more of those after that, and I get a possession charge, and my dad's like, oh, you learned your lesson. You're not going to do that again, right? No, I got 2 of those. Get my first DUI at 17. You're not going to do that again, right? You learned your lesson, and got another one, and got 2 of them under my belt. That's how it was, If you're working, you're paying your bills, then, nobody's business what you're doing at your house and behind closed doors. I think I might have taken that too literally, went to the dark side more, They don't have that alcoholic mind, that I had. My dad, straight edge, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. One night on his birthday, we go out to dinner. If it's Duffy's, Longhorn, whatever it is, he orders 1 rum and coke with his dinner. And he drinks that 1 rum and coke and then just orders regular cokes the rest of the night. Yeah, like Timmy Mack says, the 2-for-1s. I'm looking through the 2-for-1s. We get the Long Island iced teas and suck down the first one, stick my straw in the next one and start sucking it down because you get more drunk when you chug drinks through a straw, or so I thought, or what I was taught. They would see me drinking and be like, Adam, you're going to be okay to drive home? You're going to be good? Sarcastically, I'd be like, oh yeah, I need about 5 or 6 of these before I even get a buzz. And then my dad under his breath would be like, yeah, I believe him. They knew a lot more about me and what I was going through than I thought that I, put the veil over or mask or whatever it was, or try to blend in. That was it. All through high school, drinking, a little bit of cocaine here and there, all was good. My parents moved down to Florida after my grandmother passed away in a tragic accident, and that's when I had my first drink. Grandfather passed away. Grandmother moved down to Florida in 2004. We all lived in the same neighborhood, so my parents went a year after in 2005. I stayed up in Virginia. I said I wanted to graduate with my friends. I really didn't want to come to Florida at all. When I came down, it was empty lot, a house, empty lots. I think the only store around was Walmart was the place to go. I did not want to have anything to do with Port St. Lucie, Florida at all. So I stayed in up north, rented a townhouse with a few friends and a cousin of mine. By the end, I didn't want to deal with them. They didn't want to deal with me. Kicked out of school for truancy. I told you I had those public intoxications, possession charge, DUI. Kicked out of school for truancy. Broken leg. I did a backflip. Every time I got drunk, I would try to do backflips off of everything. I would just flip. There was a 2-story deck. I drank 2 Four Locos, and that was back when Four Locos were the
original formula, the good stuff.
Yeah. I did a backflip off of the deck and landed on my feet to where my toes went straight up and broke my tibia and broke my ankle. So I'm laid up, and can't work. Bills are piling up. Don't have a job. Don't have any money. I was prescribed that painkiller Percocet, for the first time. Bill's story, man. I took that, and that's when I commenced to forge the weapon that will one day turn in its flight like a boomerang and all but cut me to ribbons. I didn't know it then, but anytime one of my friends or somebody I knew went to the dentist, I would always ask if I could buy their prescription from them. If they're getting their teeth pulled or anything, I was like, if you get a script, I'll buy it from you. Nobody wanted to deal with me. That personal relationships, I'm just trying to make the big book sexy. That's all I'm trying to do here. And
Nice plug.
do what I would always fall back on. I go to live with mommy and daddy. I go down to Florida, and a lot of people ask me if I came down for recovery, and I didn't. I moved down here Halloween night, October 31st, 2005. I lived with my parents. I'm 17 years old. I just start working right away. I started working for a flooring company. The second week that I worked there, the guy that I worked with, said, you want to try one of these? And I looked down, and it's a little blue pill he had. And I was like, well, yeah, I want to try it. I didn't even know what it was, but what is it? And he's like, it's like Percocet, but it's a whole lot smaller and a whole lot stronger. And I was like, hell yeah, that's what I want. I went from doing it every weekend, doing it, every day.
Just for some reference, how much were they when you started?
I would say they were like $8. This is in 2005, so this is when it all was coming out.
In the early 2000s, I was getting Oxy 80s. Some people I know got scripts of 30s, and they were like the garbage pill. Like, nobody did them because it's only a 30.
Yeah.
And it was like when times got tough, that's when the 30s came out. You could easily buy them $5 a piece.
Yeah, and then it goes from 8 to 10 to 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 to 35 to who knows what they are now. They're probably $50 a pill. People would trade jewelry, watches, Xboxes just to get a few of them. Yeah, I was hooked, man. That was my thing. It progressed. That's how I ended up in Florida. But going into halfway and all that, I didn't know anything about recovery. I heard about a place, New Horizons. So from 17, 18 years old, and I could say the best times of my life from that age till about 30, I was asleep. I was pretty much in a self-induced coma. That was what I look forward to. I really can't tell you too much. There's some crazy things that I remember that stick it in my mind and traumatize me today. Didn't hear anything about know anything about recovery, what meetings were, AA, any of the A's. Learned about New Horizons from a friend, and he would say, they're gonna lock you in a room. You're just in a bed in a room, and they don't give you anything for comfort. You're just gonna sit in there and suffer. And I would just always think to myself, I might as well just do it at home if I'm gonna do it. I can be in bed, I can watch movies to pass the time, and I would do it. And I can't tell you how many times I've tried sweating it out, kicking, like even hallucinating. Like, I didn't know if I was dreaming or if it was in reality. The TV's talking to me. I go through this for a week. When I'm strong enough to get out of bed and walk and do whatever, I'm going and doing it right again, dude. And it happened every time. And I didn't know anything about any of this or why it was happening and all that. It was just one day I asked my mom to take me to Fort Pierce. I've asked her to do that many times before. She was huffing and puffing and irritated with me. me, I had her take me off Midway Road and drop me off at New Horizons. That's where I ended up going to Blake's for the first time. 2019, nothing changed because nothing changed. Went back out all over again, to prove this book right. Finally, it's one thing to admit you're powerless and your life's unmanageable. Then I accepted it, and then accepted the plan outlined in this book, the design for living. That's when I think all the stars aligned. I did meet Ed in 2019. He doesn't remember. I worked with him for a while.
You're not memorable. You're not a memorable person.
But, then it leads to me meeting my sponsor introducing us. We have our commitment together, you coming back to Blake's for the meeting and us meeting each other and having each other speak at our commitments and back and forth to where, it leads us to today.
Blake's saying what is?
I don't know.
You take a drunken horse thief, you get him sober, you still have a horse thief.
So whenever I speak at detoxes and rehabs, I try my best to convince these people that they should not go home. You cannot go to a place for 28 days. You show up, you're depressed, you're miserable, you're a liar, you're a thief, you feel awful about life, you're absolutely miserable, and then you take drugs and alcohol out of your body, and now I'm cured. No, you're probably going to get worse because now you don't know how to function in the world without drugs and alcohol, and it's going to lead you right back to it. And the only way I was able to accomplish that was going to a halfway house. If I had just walked out of jail, now 4 months, 6 months sober, and just went back into the world, I'd be dead. I would definitely be high, but I would most likely be dead. The only reason I'm still here is because I went to a halfway house, and I went to sober living, and I was around other people who are doing the same thing. What would your life be like if you did not go to a halfway house?
I'd be in the woods next to Walmart, and I'd be dead by now, and it's not a joke. Had I not had a community of guys. So it's the fellowship that takes place outside of the room is what the halfway house did for me. It retaught me how to interact in an unselfish way. It also made my shortcomings glaring, the things that weren't working. So you take alcohol, so I'm a straight up alcoholic, and that doesn't mean I didn't do drugs. I did plenty of Adderall, plenty of cocaine, did tons of acid, mushrooms growing up, blah, blah. I smoked plenty of pot. I was alcohol's bitch. Nothing did it for me like alcohol. Alcohol made me interact with people. I can honestly tell you that through my 20s, I don't think I ever once had a sexual interaction with another female. I had no long-term relationships. I don't think I ever had a sexual interaction with a female that didn't involve me drinking before and during. It made me handsome. It made me smart. It made me a badass. It made me everything that I wasn't, all the less thans I had in me that I couldn't hardly admit that I had. Alcohol fixed all that. When I get alcohol taken away, I am without the solution that I've found for life. If I don't have a long-term system to help retrain my brains and my neural pathways, a long-term design for living, I'm screwed. I will become so, and it's not a joke, it's in so much pain and turmoil. I will lie to myself and convince myself to go drink again. There's another thing that I had a hard time every time I went through detoxes and they talked about it, and I went through New Horizons. I was like the second class of the 30-day program. 6 beds in a hallway. That's what it was, 6 beds in a hallway. I did not realize it was my solution, not my problem. Alcohol was my solution for the problem. The problem was Ed. You take away my solution for that problem, and I am lost until I rebuild a design for living that is sustainable and doable, and that's the halfway house community. If it wasn't for that community that I got to feel a part of, because I'm empty and alone all the time. When I'm forced to live with 6 or 10 other guys in these houses, I don't get attacked quite so often by the enemy, and the enemy's me, right? And I'm forced to interact. I watch it take place all the time. These people come in and they're tore up, and they just want to sit in their room alone, but you don't get to. Someone comes in and drags you out. Someone talks you in hey, I'm cooking a steak, and you've had nothing but fucking ramen noodles for the past 2 weeks because you're working at, day labor. And, yeah, I'll come out for the steak because I want to talk to you. Bullshit. I'm coming out just for the steak or the hamburger because I'm still fucking selfish and self-serving, and I'm not even aware of it. But in that, it forces me the interaction, and I slowly become part of a community. I also watch guys go through the halfway house that refuse to become part of that community. Without exception, they almost always fail.
A lot of people dislike Blake because of his attitude and his personality.
Yeah.
And if you meet Blake, you understand. But he says these things like you need to make a 6 months commitment, and nobody who leaves before fulfilling the commitment has ever stayed sober. And he's doing this for over a decade. And it's true. If you can't commit to living like an adult for 6 months around a structured environment, how the hell do you think you're going to make it on the outside world? And it just happens over and over again. And it's the people that do not go to halfway houses, do not go to sober living, the people who go in detox and either one, meet a girl and the girl's going to save them.
Yes.
Or they got it figured out now. Maybe drinking wasn't my problem, drugs were, so maybe I could just go back and drink. I never got in trouble for weed, so maybe I can get off the fentanyl and the methamphetamine and I'll just go smoke weed. It's not until you're part of that community, and Adam really needs to say stuff.
Well, you heard it here, folks. That's where babies come from. So.
I honestly don't think I was an adult until I moved out of the halfway house. And I mean that in the genuine sense that I was a scared 12-year-old kid when I walked out of jail for the last time. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to save money. I didn't know how to pay bills. I was an infant. If it wasn't being around these people, a lot of them I didn't like, but if it wasn't being around those people, I would have not learned the things that keep me alive today.
Benefits of sober living. That was the question. I wouldn't keep going to meetings. I was forced to go to meetings every day. Today, I enjoy going to meetings because of it. I don't think I would have persevered through it. I wouldn't have made these commitments if I didn't have somebody to be accountable to. Even going to work, man. Going to work every day was new to me. And going through the book, getting the sponsor, it was all the things that we were told to do, living in these sober livings. It was more, I love the effects produced by alcohol. I love the effects produced by gambling. I love the effects from sex, from melatonin, from taking magnesium before I go to sleep. Powerade Mystic Mountain Blueberry on a hot summer day. Like, what's better than that, But,
railing lines of magnesium. Yeah. Never thought about it.
It's deeper, than just not drinking. I want to do the next right thing. The 11th step, man, is prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. I got to remind myself that all the time. It's not like it's not a working part of the mind yet for me. And that was my start, was in sober living, was doing all those things. I was told to do this. I was told to make my bed, wash my dishes. If we left dishes in the sink, Blake finds out whose dishes they are and throws them in your bed. Today, I still make my bed. I wash dishes. It's a total transformation, from living in that structured environment that I needed to where I can keep doing it, going through it today,
Would you consider yourself an adult now?
An adult? I don't know.
I think by default, I'm an adult because I pay bills and I haven't been arrested in almost 5 years. But I still think I'm the same. I might be 13 as opposed to being 12.
Yeah. That's the part, too, is like you say, am I saying this to impress people at all? Or am I saying it so somebody has a connection with it or identifies with it? I memorize like rap lyrics, quotes to movies, remembering things out of a book that was written 80-something years ago. It's for just reminders for me, like throughout the day, I have situations and contact with people and things to where I recite these quotes out of the book just to remind myself, what the right thing to do is, warnings and promises that go through the book. If I do this, if I pause when agitated or doubtful and ask God for an intuitive thought or decision, maybe I won't have an outburst or say fuck you or make the wrong decision or choice, in the end, to where I question it, too. It's like, am I doing it to impress people? Or when I speak, I hate speaking in front of people, and am I doing it for my ego and pride to see how other people look at me? Or am I genuinely doing it to help somebody else? Or maybe I need to hear the words that I'm saying, maybe I need to hear it more than anybody else does.
Let's see, it doesn't matter, because whatever you say, for any reason you said it, it's impacted many people in a good way, so it doesn't matter. But obviously, you're not saying it to be impressive. You just have a better brain than me. So I wish I could remember.
Rain Man.
You know how to count cards?
No, just hot water burn baby. That's all I know.
I could make a lot of money. My short-term memory is so destroyed. I have amazing long-term memory. I can look at a picture and tell you everybody who was there, when it happened, and what was going on, but I'm not really sure what day it is right now. My brain is just...
The 19th?
My brain is very impressed with your ability to remember anything, because I can't.
I've smoked so much aluminum foil in my life that I'm surprised, too, that I'm
maybe
even able to talk.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe people should smoke more aluminum foil, and you will get a better memory.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's electrical connections. You probably have have little aluminum wires up in their head. From
Like
that.
I'm the Tin Man with no brain, though.
They're like the
you
Tin
know?
Man, yeah. So how old are you right now?
You're the youngest one, so you should
I'm
go first.
36.
47 or
I'm
48.
60.
You're 60?
I'm 60 years old.
You actually look good for 60.
So, and I didn't get to the rooms till 50, but the idea is that I had a life, a business, I had a family. I think I know how to live life, cobbled together these shitty defense mechanisms that are getting me through life, but not successfully. Dramatic shit after another dramatic shit, whether it was really that. I grew up in the halfway houses too. I had to learn emotional sobriety. I had to stop being selfish. I didn't realize how selfish I was traveling through life. This was one of the things that hit home so hard, and I couldn't admit it to myself at first. It's selfishness and self-centeredness that we think is the root of our problem, right? Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we inevitably find that sometime in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later put us in a position to be hurt. That is complicated for a newcomer, honestly complicated, but the longer you're in the program, the more that will make sense. That selfishness and self-centeredness was me. If I'm not going to do it for me, who is? If I'm not going to steal the guy's peanut butter because I didn't make enough to have peanut butter, who's going to feed me? If I'm not talking over everyone else so that people look and pay attention to me, who's going to pay attention to me? The selfishness and self-centeredness, that is the root of who I am. 50 years, a half a century, I traveled through life with that as my code and not knowing that was my code. I was fighting everything and everyone. And the book tells us that we'll get to a point where we cease fighting. And that is a place of recovery that I strive for and give up on a regular basis. By the way, I'm 5 years sober now, and I still make mistakes. I still have shortcomings. I still screw up. But the book is a design for a living that allows me to make it right immediately, so it doesn't have to eat my lunch all the time. But that difference so we all ended up in the halfway house systems, right? At a certain time in our life, and it doesn't matter when that time is. I have a sponsee that showed up at 21, and I was like, you're doomed. There's no way at 21 I could have caused enough pain, havoc, and wreak, because I had to be in so much pain. I had to lose everything. I didn't have enough to lose at 21, but he's thriving. He's doing good. I'm looking at him, and I have just this tad bit of fucking jealousy, envy. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter how old you are. If you go and you can get into a long-term sober living, and it seems like a long 6 months, no way, I'm committing to anything for 6 months. There's no way. But the reality is, that's a minimum amount of time it takes to make these things habitual, make the habits. Adam talked about doing the dishes, cleaning up after myself, attending meetings on a regular basis. I did 487 meetings in a row. I missed one in that 487 because the halfway house said I had to go to a meeting every night at 7 o'clock.
You never got days off in the first year?
I became a halfway house manager, and I found out that these guys are not going to give a shit about the words coming out of my mouth. They're going to do what I'm going to do. I didn't even change my meetings. They saw me at every meeting. So when they went to go blah, 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 an excuse, and I'm tasked with holding them accountable. It's what I agreed to do, to have a bedroom by myself. That was the only difference between me and the guys. I still had chores to do. I had everything. I texted everywhere I went. The only thing is I didn't have to go to the bathroom to masturbate. That was the only difference, or make sure my roommate was out of the room. It gave me a sense of belonging, gave me a sense of purpose, actually, to be the house manager. And I did it twice because I had 2.5 years and I went back out. After 4 months of not doing what the book tells me I needed to do, it only took me 4 months to find a way to talk myself into a drink again. Emotionally unsober leads me to physically unsober. But that idea, it doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your age. If you are in a program, you need a long-term solution. And whatever you believe that 6 months is not enough to invest, I guarantee you'll spend the next years suffering. You'll be unhappy at times in a halfway house. You'll bitch and moan. There is no growth in comfort. There is zero growth in comfort. If I'm comfortable, I'm not growing because I have to have the courage to change. When I'm uncomfortable, I'm learning new skill sets. I'm learning new ways to travel through life successfully if I'm willing to learn from those.
If I'm not growing, I'm going.
One of the benefits of the first halfway house I went to, I got to meet girls. There was a men's section, there was a women's section. And on October 31st, 2019, when I walked out of jail and did my and take out artesian. The woman Kat sat me down. She went over the rules and she said, there's women over there. Each one of them is crazier than you are. Do not get involved. It's against the rules. You will get kicked out and it'll ruin your life. Do not get involved. I said, the last thing on my mind is women. I just got out of jail. I'm on fire for AA. I don't care about women. It was about 2 weeks into my stay at artesian where we started walking to the store together. It led me to the point where I tell people, don't get into relationships in early sobriety and don't ever get into relationships with other alcoholic addicts. And I can say this because it almost destroyed me. I was trying so hard to save somebody who didn't want to be saved. And no matter what, in recovery, you got two people that every day wake up with a 50% chance of burning their life down. And then you get two of them together, and now the chances increase
dramatically.
And when I go to detox and rehabs and I see the guy and girl sit next to each other, and when they come to my meeting Saturday night, they're sitting over there next to each other. I know what's going on. Like, you have two bags of garbage. This is a 36-year-old bag of garbage, lives with his parents, has never paid bills, does not own his car. Yes, this is someone specific. Then he meets this bag of garbage. She's 24, never had a real job, also lives with her parents. I got an idea. These two people who've never functioned in the real world, let's move out together. And it's just a ticking time bomb, and it burns down almost every time. I say almost, there's like 2 out of 10,000 relationships that did work, and I'm currently still with the psychopath that I started messing with in November of 2019. It was a rough time period, and we are not normal. She is on paper mentally disturbed, special, whatever you want to call her. Her psychological problems are so strong the government pays her to just stay away. And I'm a little unbalanced myself. But somehow it works out. We don't live together. We don't spend a lot of time together. But I've seen a lot of bad relationships happen. The program has taught me a lot because I didn't think all my past relationships were toxic. And I look back and all my relationships were alcoholic relationships. Destroyed because of my fear, my selfishness, my jealousy, my anxiety, whatever it was. I ruined all of them. But I only know that now because of this program.
For the past 2 years, I've been seeing a girl. She evidently says that I was her crush, but I had a lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence growing up, like tremendously. Less thanism. We got together. I just texted her on Facebook at one point in time. She happened to move back like a year before that or so. I had just started dating after 5 years and halfway, 5 years of no relationships. She has her issues. She has her own issues, her own dealt with stuff, but she's not one of us. I have done unhealthy things through fear. I'm terrified of commitment partly because of what I did to my wife of 25 years, my ex-wife now, who I'm still very good friends with, and that became a point of contention for this person. I needed some space because she was doing things. I set up a boundary and said, you know, this is a non-movable boundary. I can't do this if, and you know, that's me with expectations. And she didn't meet my expectations. And I felt some sort of way about it. And every time I talked to her, I found myself angry and lashing out at her. And I don't want to be that person. And she couldn't handle that. And did a major outburst for the third time, like smearing campaign on social media, constantly texting me, very high schoolish shit. And so I blocked her. And then she was talking into an echo chamber, and then that did not help her mental state. She has some other things she's issuing. But then people were coming up to me and telling me what she was posting on Facebook and all this. And my first instinct was my alcoholic childish thing. I'm going to retaliate. And then I'm like, where? Oh yeah, pause when agitated, right? Do I have to say it? Does it have to be said? Does it have to be said now? And does it have to be said by me? And I realized that there was nothing productive coming out of that. This went on for weeks. Did I have inner turmoil? Absolutely. But I had men around me to talk about it with. When we're together and it's good, it's good. The physical connection is extremely good, and I was making all these selfish choices. This time, I got to the end of the whole cycle, and I said, yeah, no, not again. What does the book tell me? What do the men around me tell me? It says we can't be arbitrators to someone else's sex life, but it's like, did I cause jealousy? Have I caused harm to another? And I am causing her harm. If she's in pain because she knows me, I am causing harm. And evidently, I'm either not mature enough or she's not mature enough, and I haven't figured it all out yet, and I probably will never figure it out, but it's evident because before this all happened, I prayed to my higher power. You know, this is not a religious program. Don't get that confused. It kept me out of recovery for a long time. And I don't mean I was sitting in the room not getting what the book said because I kept thinking of religion. It's not a religious program. It's spiritual. It's different. The program has taught me in the past 9 years, has taught me to be accountable for everything I do, for what I say and what I do, hold myself accountable objectively as best as possible, and then review it with another human being. none of us, it says almost none of us, like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, and the confession of shortcoming that is required for successful consummation of this program. To take this program in, like, and live it, right? None of us like, I got to look at myself. It's the same thing I do for my sponsees. I'm literally never am judging them. I'm always just holding up a mirror in front of them, saying, do you like this person? Is this what you're doing? Look at what you're doing. I'm an objective thing I'm trying to show you. I have to do that to myself and have other men do that to me. And when I did, it became incredibly clear that I was in the midst of a toxic relationship, that I was repeating the same cycle again and again, and it looked a lot like drinking. It looked a hell of a lot like drinking and using. And it was drinking and using a relationship. And it's not just the sex, it's also the feeling of someone sitting there and looking at you with starry glazed eyes and, telling you what a wonderful person you are. The oxytocin rush of the physical interaction. We have a thing called flesh hunger. It's real. I go to therapy. I've talked to my therapist about it. She's talked to me about it. Flesh hunger. We desire that interaction fundamentally, like internally. We're social creatures. We manipulate our environment to fill our bellies, and we manipulate our environment to interact sexually so that we can produce more outcome. And that's why we're all here. This is fundamental wiring I can't change. And in doing that, the program in and of itself taught me. And it's not just the program in the book. It is sponsoring guys and watching them make those mistakes while I was sponsoring them, watching it happen again and again and again. My lack of self-esteem would spit out into relationships, and after 5 years of nothing, not dating anyone, just working on self, 5 years, my therapist was like, okay, here's your assignment, and I take on therapy like I do the program, once a week for the next 2 months. You need to ask someone out every week, whether they say yes, no, it doesn't matter. I had to build up to it. I had to watch another podcast called Ask Women, so that I was capable of walking up to a girl and asking her out without it crushing me when she said no. And then it turned out women need glasses evidently out there now, but most of the women I asked out said yes. And so I was going on a series of dates, and at the same time this person came into my life. And then after I did this for a little while, my therapist said, okay, now pick one. And then that's what I did, and I picked this one.
You got a weird-ass therapist. This is blowing my mind.
No, she's teaching me to grow is what she's
doing. But I
doing.
don't care. I know it's a little long. There's no way in hell I could ask a girl out. No.
Yeah, well, that's what... you know why? Because you're uncomfortable in it.
Yes.
Fear of abandonment. So there is no growth in comfort. Leroy, there's no growth in comfort. If I'm comfortable, I'm not growing.
I already got one psychopath. I can't go around asking for others.
Because you're not... Yes, I was not in a relationship.
Oh, my God. No. Freaking out even just thinking about asking a girl out. Oh, my God. I don't need that.
It got easier.
As sober.
And that podcast worked.
Yeah, I'm a prime example of that dating first thing in recovery. Ed is probably one of the only guys that I've gotten vulnerable with and talked about these things with, and it's surprising that we kind of have common situations and the same defects or the same things we're going through, the same thoughts. 2019, my first go-round in recovery in AA, halfway house, sober living and all that. Got the sponsor, he told me all these suggestions, don't date anybody early in recovery, read 86 through 88, go to this meeting and meet me there. I did everything he told me to do. I didn't do the things he told me not to do. I did. Literally within the first 30 days, I get my cell phone back at Blake's Beach House. He takes your cell phone for about 30 days or longer.
60 for me.
Yeah, I think it was like 32.
I got caught sneaking into the woods with that girl.
And there was a tree involved?
We had a special spot in the woods.
I get my phone back, and it was the day I get my phone back, I get a friend request from one of the gals at the meetings there. I'm thinking, this is God. This is putting her for me, so this is what I gotta do. Yeah, I still had the alcoholic mind. I had no defense against the first drink. I did not know anything about anything. I still don't. I've managed to have relationships, now to where I've been able to not, drink over them, the good, the bad, anything. This particular girl had a prescription of a gabapentin, justifying, rationalizing, it's a non-narcotic, I can take it, and, I end up abusing that. All it took was her to say, let's get a hotel room and drink one night. And so, I'm lying about where I'm going, saying I'm staying the night with family, and we're getting a room. I make some of the flaming Dr. Peppers, the Bud Light with amaretto shot in it. And,
oh my God, I can taste it. I haven't had one in 20 years.
Some Fireball involved. and I think of some rum chateau with
Very
that.
fancy. Very
And
fancy.
Yeah.
suddenly a shot of fentanyl sounds good.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, is that happened. She fell asleep and passed out in the hotel, and we're in Port St. Lucie on US 1, and I'm literally outside of the hotel, like looking for anybody walking by, looking around the pool area, calling every number on my phone of everybody that I, ran around with, everything. And I was up until probably 3 o'clock in the morning until I went back in while she was asleep. That just proves I'm an alcoholic also, and I always was one of those guys that was like, oh yeah, opiates is my problem. I got to stop doing the hard stuff. Alcohol, it's trouble. Where is the trouble at? That's like in my mind is like, I want to find trouble. That's no matter what it is. Today, that was kind of the same thing that Ed talked about. I think coming up on my first year this time around, I was on dating websites, taking girls out to dinner, to the movies. It'd be a different girl every week. Talked about it with my sponsor. I talked about it with Ed. Ed had the lovely recommendation of just, instead of dating girls, weekly or bi-weekly, why don't you stay with one girl for like 3 months? Just try it. Just get in a relationship. Our service commitment, I invited a certain group to come and share there. One of the girls, I guess, was fancy of me. She started talking to me. I started talking to her. We made plans and went out on a date. And after that first date, I said, this is the one I'm going to try to stick around with. She ended up getting stuck with me in the meantime, and we're still together today. But, we've had some bumps in the road and some things.
You impressed the shit out of me. You really did. When that all took place and your willingness to share it.
Nobody likes the leaven of our pride and self-searching, and it's that word honesty, man. That word honesty, I hate it. I still hate hearing it. I hate it as a topic in meetings. It has come little by slowly for me, to where the truth hit me all at once, to where, the willingness to change came from it, and I'm still working on it. I'm still talking with guys, still with my sponsor. We went through a whole other fourth and fifth step. I feel a lot more relieved of it, and I think that's the biggest thing is talking about it, is getting it off your chest, sharing things, and who knows, and me talking with multiple guys with multiple years about issues and things like that, it might end up, helping them too, if they're going through something, just because somebody has 30-something years of sobriety, they don't have character defects or show them or admit them, to where, like, I see that and it makes me feel like I'm okay too, to where somebody I look up to, still going through changes themselves and wanting to better themselves.
So the main point is, when I started, I said maybe 2 out of 100,000 relationships work out. If my relationship's working out and yours is, it means nobody watching this can successfully date somebody in the program without it burning their lives down.
Yeah.
So don't even try, because it's not going to work. The odds are against you.
And more will be revealed. More will be revealed.
Yeah, like a prospector.
Like a
I
prospector.
think you're like a prostitute.
And a pros something. What my life was like before was I was unaware of how I was traveling through life, how much destruction I was placing on myself and people around me. What happened was I had to lose every single thing worthwhile in me being a human being, beyond possessions. I've had shinier shit and never was as happy as I am right now. What my life looks like now is I am a better person than I ever could have designed to be on my own. I listened to Tony Robbins tapes in my disease. I was going to walk the Appalachian Trail. None of that would have helped me like the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fellowship, and the service that I'm able to do. It has changed me as a person and made me a better human being than I ever could have been on my own. 6 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend the program of Alcoholics Anonymous for recovery.
The simplest way to put it is I heard a guy at a meeting. He said, my life used to suck and now it doesn't suck so much. And he said it was normal for me to drink and drug every day, to where today it is normal for me to not drink and drug every day. And I remember having a year sober and being like, whoa, like, that's me, man. Like, he would put it in such simple sayings that just made it click. Today I have relationships with people, I have a career, I'm not suffering from misery and depression, not the life beyond my wildest dreams. People say my worst day sober is better than my best day drinking and using. I don't find that to be true, but my best day sober is way better than my best day drinking, and my worst day sober is way better than my worst day drinking. I'm happy, man. and I can tell you honestly, that I'm genuinely happy today.
I don't know how to explain it. I just know that because of this program, I can look back at my life and see I was born different. And I had this void inside of me that I could never understand, I could never explain. No matter what it was, whether it was money, drugs, women, whatever it was, something inside of me always said it's never enough. And it drove me insane. And I spent my entire life trying to fill this emptiness inside of me that just ruined every moment of the day. I was miserable. I was depressed. I hated everything. And somehow working this program, having a relationship with a higher power, which gets stronger every day as I try to help others, some weird way this magical thing has cured that void inside of me. And my life is better than it's ever been because I don't suffer the way I used to suffer. I don't wake up depressed and miserable. I don't hate life anymore. Somehow working this program and helping other people, whether they listen to me or not, makes my life better. This is the greatest thing I've ever done that I didn't want to do. Give AA a shot. Give DAA a shot. Give NA a shot. Doesn't matter. Do a program where you can work the 12 steps to learn to have a relationship with God. Take care of that void that's inside like it worked for me. If it can work for me, it can work for you.
It doesn't matter what emotions I'm going through, if I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, depressed, embarrassed, nervous, scared. No matter what I'm feeling, I know deep down inside that everything's going to be okay. Like I have that inner peace today. Vagina. Okay, now we're good.